This is a sample first guitar lesson for somebody with absolutely no musical experience. If this sounds like you could use this video as a jumping off point for teaching yourself, or you may be inspired to look around for a local guitar teacher. This mock lesson is for a complete beginner with zero musical experience. Ideally, the first lesson covers the parts of the guitar, how to tune your guitar, how to hold your guitar and your pick, basic strumming technique, how to read a chord diagram, how to play your first two chords and read a rhythm chart, an introduction to music notation, your first three melody notes, a simple melody, and an E minor pentatonic scale. Now, that's a lot of information for a beginner, and while I do try to cover as much as I can, I don't force it. Depending on the student, I may get through all of that. Most of the time, I get through about half of that. As we go through the first lesson, I analyze my student and get a sense of how much information I can dump on them. And keep in mind as we go through this that different teachers have different approaches. I put a heavy emphasis on music reading, so I get into standard music notation right away. Another teacher might emphasize tab over standard notation. And a classical guitar teacher won't spend any time teaching you how to hold a pick. With all that in mind, here's the lesson. Parts of the guitar. This main part right here is the body. An acoustic guitar will have a sound hole. A guitar like this has what are called F-holes. This is the neck. This is the headstock. Of course, you got your strings. And these metal parts, these bars, are frets. We count our frets from the end of the guitar. So this is fret 1, fret 2, fret 3, and so forth. This is the bridge, where the strings connect on the body. The strings go over the nut, this little bit at the end of the fretboard, and then these are your tuners. Now, if you're playing electric guitar, I would also show you what the volume and the tone knobs are for, as well as a very basic tutorial on how to use an amplifier. Aside from that, everything else we cover is going to apply to both electric and acoustic guitar. We number the strings from the highest sounding to the lowest sounding, or the smallest to the largest. So string 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the string names from the lowest sounding to the highest sounding, E, A, D, G, B, E. And these are the notes you tune your guitar to, so it's going to be very important to memorize these right away. Part of your first assignment is going to be memorize the string numbers and the string names. Ed, 8, dynamite, good, bye, Ed. You can use an app or a tuner to tune your guitar. So if my student has a clip-on tuner, I'll show them how to use it. Otherwise, for brand new students, I usually use the Guitar Tuna app because 1, it's free, and 2, it's very beginner friendly. So this is how to tune your guitar with Guitar Tuna. So here's the screen for the Guitar Tuna app. You can see a representation of the guitar from this angle. It's got your string names, E, A, D, G, B, and E. So if you want to tune the low E string, the lowest sounding E string over here on this side, you press this little E button right there and then play your string. And that's what you want. You want it to line up right in the middle like that. If it's too low, it'll go to one side, and if it's too high, it'll go to the other side. Let me tune it back up to where it's supposed to be. It's hard to tune like this. There we go. Now if you want to tune the low A string, then you press the A, just press each string as needed. Now it defaults to auto mode. So this button right up here, I'm going to press that. Now it's turned green. This is an auto mode. So if your guitar is already pretty close to being in tune, you can just keep it in auto mode. It will detect the string you're trying to tune. But if a string is way out of whack, it's not a bad idea to just touch each individual button and put it in manual mode. The tuning of your guitar can change depending on the weather, humidity, heat, so make sure you tune your guitar every single time you pick it up to play. Now we get into basic playing position. We're just going to go over broad strokes and we'll fine tune it from lesson to lesson. In general, you want to sit up straight and you want to hold your guitar straight up and down. It's very tempting to hold your guitar more flat because you can see your fingers better, but this puts your hand at an awkward angle and it's a good way to develop injury. A lot of people like to place the curved part of the guitar over their right leg. I like to use a strap. You can see it, it's all black. I like to use a strap so that way my guitar just kind of hangs there where it needs to go. And some players like to place their guitar over their left leg and then raise their leg up with a footstool. No matter how you hold it, the guitar's going to feel weird at first. So I suggest sticking with one position for a few weeks. And then after that, don't be afraid to change things up, try different positions, make little adjustments. To find the most natural left hand or fretting hand position, just form the letter C and flip your hand over. It's really that easy. And your left hand goes underneath the neck, which may sound obvious, but I've had plenty of very young students try to place their hand over the neck. That doesn't work out so well. The thumb should go behind the neck, approximately opposite your first and second fingers. So the thumb will squeeze behind for extra leverage. It's not just your fingers doing the work, your thumb is doing some work from behind as well. And when you place your fingers on the frets, make sure you place your fingertips on the frets, not the flat, but the fingertips. So you want to keep your fingers curved. Each finger should touch only its own strings. And you'll hear me say, place your finger on such and such a fret. What I really mean is not necessarily directly on the fret, because that gives you kind of a clunky sound. You want it just to the far side of the fret, nestled up against the fret a bit. That's your best sound. If you have it too far from the fret, get a little buzz in there. You don't want that. On the fret, it's too thumpy, but just to the side of the fret. I usually have students start off using a pick and then get into fingerstyle playing a little bit later. Now, if you're taking classical guitar lessons, you're not going to use a pick. You're just going to start using your fingers right away. Now, as far as holding the pick, it's not really any big mystery. Hold the pick between your thumb and your first finger. Make sure your first finger is curved, not straight, curved. And you want to put the pick on the side of your finger, not on the pad of your finger. So on the side of your finger, holding about half of the pick, about like that. You don't want to hold it on the end of the pick because you are going to drop it. You're going to lose control. So about half the pick, it should look like the point of the pick is coming out the side of your thumb. And like everything else, we'll fine tune this from lesson to lesson. This is a down strum. This is an up strum. Pretty self-explanatory. What I usually do next is do some strumming and have my student imitate me, following my rhythm and following the pick direction. And I keep this pretty simple. I don't play any chords with my left hand, just all open strings. So my student imitates this. Imitates, following the pick direction and all that. And I usually do one more. Next, I usually show how to read a chord diagram. This enables you to learn chords on your own. So here's a chord diagram. We can see the name of the chord above. That's going to be D7. The lines going up and down are your strings. So on this side, we have the 6th string, or the largest string. And on this side, we have the 1st string, or the smallest string. This line up at the very top is the nut of your guitar, the very end. And then we have our frets going across, fret 1, fret 2, fret 3, and so forth. If you see an X above a string, that means you do not strum that string. If you see an O or a 0 above a string, it means you do strum that string. You don't put any fingers down on it. Let's talk about finger numbers real quick. Finger 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes you'll see T for thumb. And these dots or circles show where to place your fingers. So we can see we have finger 1 on 1st fret of the 2nd string, keeping your finger curved on the fingertip. Remember our fret placement, not on the fret, but just to the side. Finger 2 on fret 2, string 3, and finger 3 on fret 2 as well on the 1st string. So we have a little triangle formed here, and we can see an O or a 0 above string 4. So we do strum that string, we just don't place a finger down on it, and we do not strum strings 5 or 6. So D7 is a 4-string chord. I use the D7 to show how to read a chord diagram because it's got a lot going on. But the first 2 chords you're going to play are going to be a lot easier than that. Here's a very easy G major chord. You can call it G major. Mostly you just got to call it a G chord. Now I like to let the student puzzle it out for themselves first, and then I'll pipe up if they need some help. So we can see in this diagram we have finger 3 on fret 3, 1st string, and then we have some open strings. Open string 2, 3, and 4. We have X's above the rest of the strings, so this will be a 4-string chord. And a super easy E minor chord. Again, I like to let the student puzzle it out for themselves first. So for this one, we have strings 1, 2, and 3 open, and strings 4, 5, and 6 have the X's, and there are no circles in there, so it's just 3 open strings. I want to point out that these are both simplified chords. Normally, you're going to play the G major and the E minor with 6 strings. Here's one way to play that full G chord, and one way to play that full E minor chord. Now I want your first 2 chords to be super easy, so it's very easy to switch back and forth. Now if you're a teenager on up, I'll show you the full versions of those chords, and you can decide for yourself whether to play the full version or the simplified version. If I'm working with a very young student, I will only show them the simplified version. Either way, you're going to end up playing the full versions at some point. I emphasize standard notation in my lessons, so the next thing we usually do is go over some music reading basics. This is the music staff, these 5 horizontal lines. The music is divided into small segments called measures, and those measures are marked by these vertical lines called bar lines. The end of the music is marked with a final bar line, which is a thin line and a thick bar line. So we can see here we have 4 measures. This is a quarter note. A quarter note has a stem and a note head that is filled in, and that stem can point up or down. A quarter note lasts for 1 beat. So if I'm just playing quarter notes and my beat is 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. For every type of rhythm, there is a corresponding rest or silence. So while a quarter note is 1 beat of playing, a quarter rest is 1 beat of silence. If I alternate quarter notes and quarter rests, we've got this. 1, rest, rest, quarter note, rest, quarter note, rest. This is a time signature. A time signature tells you how many beats are in each measure. When you name a time signature, you simply say the upper number and the lower number. So this is 4/4 time. The top number of the time signature tells you how many beats you count in each measure, and the bottom number tells you what kind of note gets counted as the beat. Now in this time signature, that bottom number 4 stands for quarter note. So if you're looking at 4/4 time, we have 4 beats per measure with the quarter note getting the beat. In other words, we have 4 quarter notes per measure. Later on in your playing, you're going to see some other number than 4 at the bottom of the time signature, but for now, you're going to be looking at a lot of 4s with your quarter note getting the beat. So 4/4 time, 4 beats per measure, quarter note gets the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3/4 time, 3 beats per measure, quarter note gets the beat. 1, 2, 3. 2/4 time, you can probably guess that we have 2 beats per measure, quarter note gets the beat. 1, 2, 1, 2. Then we use that information to learn how to read a rhythm chart. So this rhythm chart is in 4/4 time. So we have 4 beats per measure. Quarter note gets the beat. These are a little different style of quarter note. When you see the little oval quarter notes, that just means you're playing one note at a time. If you see the little slashy looking quarter notes, that means you're going to be playing multiple notes. In other words, chords. In the first measure, we see 4 quarter notes, and above the music, we can see a G. So we have a G chord that we play 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Measure 2, we switch to E minor, which we don't put any fingers down for the easy version. Notice when I take my finger away, I'm not taking it very far away because I'm going to have to go back to a G, so I just keep that finger hovering there. But I just play those 3 open strings for an E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. Measure 3, we go back to a G chord. We have 4 strums on a G, 4 quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Measure 4, there is no chord written above, so you continue playing the chord you are already playing, in other words, 4 more Gs. So if I go back to the top of this one and play it all the way through, we got this. And notice I'm going to be playing steadily, so when I move from one measure to the next, I don't pause. 1, 2, 3, 4, keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4, back to G, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This next rhythm chart includes quarter note rests, so let me show you what to do when you encounter a rest. With a guitar, the strings keep going unless you do something about it. So we have a rest on beat 2 in this measure, which means we need silence. So we have to mute the strings. In this case, I'm going to mute the strings with my right hand. So I just got done strumming, and all I have to do is just a small movement, is just move my thumb into the strings. I don't have to turn my hand around. I don't have to use any weird part of my hand. I just use whatever part of my hand is closest to the strings. In this case, I just got done strumming downward, move my hand on beat 2 into the strings to make them stop, and that's called muting. So at the beginning, we have a G chord quarter note, then we're going to mute on beat 2. Beat 3, we have another G quarter note, and mute on beat 4. Measure 2, we have 3 quarter notes in a row, and then we rest or mute on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mute on beat 4. And then we have the same rhythm in the next 2 measures. It's just with an E minor chord. Again, when I play my E minor chord, I keep my finger close to the string so I can put it right back down. So from the beginning, we have G, rest. G, mute. 1, 2, 3, mute. Then E minor, 1, 2, 3, mute. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's about as far as most students get in their first lesson, but if you're quick to pick up on things, we'll get into a little bit of melody reading as well. First, a quick demo of melody versus chords. Essentially, melody is just one note at a time. That's the part of the song you would sing. So if I'm playing the melody for Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, or I could sing the melody and play the chords. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. So melody, chords. Do, 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 do. For reading and playing melodies, you're going to learn how to read single notes on the music staff. So here's the music staff again, those 5 horizontal lines. That symbol at the beginning is called a treble clef, which is not very important right now, but it's definitely something we'll talk about eventually. Single notes will appear as ovals. So when you played chords, you saw the little slashy quarter notes. Single notes appear as ovals. Sometimes they'll be filled in, sometimes they won't. We'll get into the why of that as we get into different types of rhythms. For now, you're going to be playing quarter notes. Notes can appear on a line or in a space between the lines. And the higher a note appears in the staff, the higher it sounds. The first 3 notes you're going to learn are E, F, and G. Those 3 notes can be found on the first string. This is where the note E appears in the music staff, that top space. So whenever you see that note in that space, it's the E note, just that one note. And from the diagram, you can see this is played first string open, no fingers down. So there's your E. F is that top line. So whenever you see that note on that line, that is an F. That is on the first string, first fret, first finger. Again, remember your fret placement. Don't put your finger right on the fret, just next to the fret. And the note G sits on top of the music staff. That's third finger, third fret, also on the first string. So E, F, G. And all that stuff you learned about measures, bar lines, quarter notes, time signatures, that applies to melody reading as well. This is a set of 4 quarter note E's, each lasting 1 beat, and then 4 quarter note F's, 4 G quarter notes. And this is in 4/4 time, so we have 4 quarter notes per measure. And I highly recommend singing or saying the note names out loud as you play, so you get those notes in your head. E, 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 F, 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 G, 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 F, E, 2, 3, 4. And this exercise is in 3/4 time, so now we have 3 quarter notes per measure. E, 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 F, 2, 3, G, 2, 3, F, 2, 3, E, 2, 3. Now, if you're really fast to learn and you get through all of that, and there's a few more minutes, we go over the E minor pentatonic scale. Otherwise, we save it for the next lesson. Here's the scale, and then we'll break it down. So this is 2 notes per string. We begin with an open 6th string, and then fret 3 on the 6th string. And for now, if you're playing on fret 3, make sure you use finger 3. If it's fret 2, finger 2, fret 1, finger 1. So 0 and 3, or open and 3. Next string, open, and then 2 on the same string. So that'll be fret 2, finger 2. Next string, open and 2. Next string, open and 2. And then open 3, open and 3. Then you reverse that. So you just got done playing this high note. Don't replay the high note. Just go back to the open note on the same string. Then go to the 2nd string. Now we're reversing everything, so now we play the note with the finger first. So 3 and then open on the same string. And then 2 and open. 2 and open. 2 and open. 3 and open. This is all basic stuff, but if this is your first experience playing any kind of instrument, it's a lot to take in. Some students get through all of this, most students do not. Either way is good, everybody learns at their own pace. The musical examples in this lesson are taken from my Melody Guitar Book 1 and my Rhythm Guitar Book 1, both of which I offer as free downloads. I'll leave links for those in the description. And for more guitar lessons, music theory, and solo guitar arrangements, please subscribe.